Today, I'm standing in the living room of my neighbor's house. My own grandmother's home down the street has been totally destroyed. Initial reports are that 98% of homes and buildings have either been destroyed or severely damaged by this most recent record-breaking Hurricane Beryl. Being back home in Carriaku, I and my community are experiencing the devastation that has become all too familiar to hundreds of millions of people all around the world. I'm also inspired by the resilience of people here and around the world, the survivors of climate-driven disasters, who tell me that material possessions are not as important as the air in their lungs and the safety of their family and loved ones. From the largest and most developed nations to the smallest and most vulnerable. Whether it's my home island of Carriaku, the United States, India, Kenya, or any other country on Earth, what happens in the next 3 months, the next 3 years, to the families still living under tarpaulins, still in debt to the bank for a home that no longer stands, as the next brutal storm, flood, or wildfire approaches, fueled by the climate crisis. Or the endless debt cycles of governments borrowing to rebuild only to face another climate-inflicted disaster, forced to borrow again and again to rebuild their battered infrastructure, to divert scarce resources from educating their children, providing healthcare, and developing their nations. Tragically, this upheaval of lives and livelihoods from Beryl is not unique. It is the growing cost of unchecked climate carnage in every country on Earth. Globally, these storms have never been so powerful or so frequent. Floods so sudden and destructive, fires and droughts so devastating and costly in the immediate and longer term. Just in the past month, we've seen heat waves with 4-figure death tolls in India. Over 1,000 pilgrims died on their Hajj to Mecca earlier this year. 2 years ago, one third of Pakistan was underwater. Over thousands of people lost their lives. Millions were displaced, and 3.5 million children were out of school. In the Caribbean and the USA, Beryl developed a double blow of climate-driven pain. Home-destroying force, leaving literally millions without power in Texas alone, amid health-endangering heat. These colossal climate costs have reached the level of severe national security threat in every country. These climate-driven disasters don't just cripple lives and communities when they hit. They inflict huge ongoing costs the world over. A recent report put the costs of inaction at $38 trillion a year until 2050. The same report says climate action will cost less than a sixth of that. Climate impacts have pushed down global food production and pushed up food prices and other costs of living. Beryl is yet more painful proof. Every year, fossil fuel-driven climate costs are an economic wrecking ball, hitting billions of households and small businesses. If governments everywhere don't step up, every economy and 8 billion people will face this blunt force trauma head-on on a continuous basis. Rather than just counting the costs of climate carnage, all governments must supercharge efforts to prevent them. This means all governments must put climate action back at the top of cabinet agendas. First of all, we must stop making things worse. We must slash fossil fuel pollution now and halve it this decade, as science demands. The G20 are responsible for 80% of global greenhouse gas pollution. They must lead the way with game-changing new national climate plans due earlier next year. which deliver on the promise every country made last year to transition away from all fossil fuels. We need stronger adaptation plans, building resilience and protecting communities, economies, supply chains and company bottom lines currently getting hammered by global heating. Finally, climate action is an investment, not a cost, delivering returns on investment in new clean infrastructure and generating economic growth. Climate justice requires much bolder climate actions that deliver real economy and real-life results. Standing here, it's impossible not to recognize the vital importance of delivering climate finance, funding loss and damage, and investing massively in building resilience, particularly for the most vulnerable. The UN is working around the clock to play our part, bringing all nations together to agree bolder actions, and with vital practical measures on the ground, like extending early warning systems to every person on Earth. Our determination is unwavering. We will not relent. On this tiny island, as in the biggest cities of the world, I see determination also in the eyes of people from all walks of life. Determination not to take the climate crisis lying down or to accept half measures. To people around the world, we need your help more than ever to get more action from your governments and business leaders. The only way out of this is together. What the climate crisis did to my grandmother's house must not become humanity's new normal. We can still prevent that, but only if people everywhere speak up and demand bolder climate actions now, before it's too late.